I'd love to talk a little bit more about the work that you're doing around screen distraction. I had a great interview several months ago with Gloria Mark, who you might know, who has a great book, Attention Span. And it was just shocking to me that we're now at a point where the majority of people are shifting their attention every 45 seconds. I couldn't believe
Yeah.
it when she gave me that statistic. What are some of the things you're investigating?
Let's rewind to 2006. The class I taught then ended up having the co-founder of Instagram, Mike Krieger, and Tristan Harris, who now leads the Center for Humane Technologies and shows up on TV and Congress. They were actually on the same project in the class that I believe opened the door to do Instagram years later. It was that year in 2006 where the FTC was having a hearing. They called it Tech Aid or something like that. And you can still find this online. And so I had my students, I said, what do you think the problems are here? And I had a formal testimony there, but I couldn't go to DC, so I did it in video, which I'm glad about now because now I have a video of me doing it. There were some things we surfaced, and this is a little bit different than your question, but one of the things we surfaced was this issue, and I called it persuasion profiling. I said, technology companies this hadn't happened yet, they will test and see what persuades and influences us, and they will store that, and they will buy and sell that record, a lot like a credit report record is bought and sold. That certainly happened, persuasion profiling. I talked about video games that had cause and effect relationships built in, and I don't want to get into that, but I thought that could be used to train people to go to war and do very dangerous things because you're playing this video game, and if I do this and this happens, problematic, right? Because people are experiencing, I do this and this happens, and our brains are wired to glom onto the cause and effect relationships. And I felt like that was going to happen more and more in video games. There's not a great example of that, but I'm sure it's happened. But then there was another area that I said, there will be a time we cannot believe our eyes, where we'll see videos of things that are created by technology, and we'll have to remind ourselves this is not true. So this was 2006. So now, about 15 years later, that started being called deep fakes. And I still think we're not very well prepared for those kinds of deep fakes. So those were some of the issues through that class and through that government hearing that I wanted to put on the table. But again, back then, I got no follow-up calls. I got no follow-up emails. It was just like nobody cared. And it was hard to say, people, this is coming. This is coming, whether we like it or not. But people were concerned about other issues. Fast forward, screen time. It was Tristan Harris from that class that I helped champion, and he had a really breakthrough TED Talk and that really put him on the map. And I think Tristan Harris is doing amazing work with screen time and now more with AI. So he's much more expert than I am on that space. That it was, I think 2018, I decided to do a class at Stanford all about screen time and helping people manage their screen time. We created a really wonderful tool. We brought together online tool that people can find at screentime.stanford.edu. And it's this genie that asks you about your screen usage to then suggest how to minimize that. And on the back end, we have over 200 different ways of reducing screen time. Through the genie, it helps match you with the best ways for you. Hopefully it's helping people. However, one of the sad realizations from that class, and then we brought it into my lab and did research on it, people know screen time's an issue and a challenge and a problem, but it's mostly an issue for other people and not themselves. We saw that over and over, not in the research, but just in the response. We have this tool. People would like to reduce their screen time, but they're generally think it's more a problem for my kids or for other people and not myself. And so that's really hard because, as you know, in my work, the only thing that works in the long term is to help people do what they already want to do. And if somebody doesn't already want to do something, even though if there's a tool or a resource, they're not going to do it long-term or reliably. They might do it a little bit. And I think all of us are in this, yeah, I use screen a lot. Yeah, I should do less. It's so useful. It's so entertaining, whatever. It's a tough problem. It just really is a hard problem. I'll stop there for now.
It really is a tough problem. And I just wanted to give an anecdotal example of how this technology is working in ways people might not even understand. I was in charge of technology at Catalina And if people aren't familiar with Catalina marketing, in our heyday, we had a 3 year history of 75% of the shopping visits that all Americans, Great Britons,
Wow.
people who lived in France, Germany, Italy, and Japan did. And we formed this joint venture with Nielsen Catalina Ventures. This was 2011, 2012. And this is where things got really scary. We used geolocation and we combined Nielsen's data with our data, and we were able to map when a person was in their home, when they were watching a television
Mm,
program, and we were able to, through that geolocation, know what program that they were using, know what their buying preferences were, and we're able to send them an offer on their phone while they were watching that program. And that was, 12, 13 years ago. So
wow.
imagine if you're a company like Facebook, Instagram, or Amazon, Google, the capabilities that some of these companies have. It's just amazing.
Wow. I think 20 or 30 years ago, I think people would have been very alarmed by that. And even the privacy issues around you're carrying this mobile phone. That means those companies that own the operating system and maybe the carriers know where you are all the time. And people, again, didn't get that concerned about it. I had a student of mine who was from China, and he actually returned to China and led huge companies there. And he visited me recently. And I got the real scoop on what's going on there. And one of the things was, oh, yeah, we're observed everywhere we are. Everywhere we are, we're observed. And we just assume that everything we do on our phone is being recorded. Da, 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 da. And he seemed surprisingly okay with that, which was stunning. And his thinking on it was, well, it's really safe society. If something gets stolen within a minute or two, the authorities can go watch the video, do facial recognition, find that person, and they can find exactly where that person is in this second, kind of thing. That may be coming our way to our culture as well, because the pattern is these kind of alarming ideas of what technology might do. It seems like we trade off some of our rights and our privacy for these benefits, and eventually we kind of just get used to it. So this is really not a very happy topic, but it is a pattern that I've seen, and I've really tried to shine a spotlight on some of the challenges. But what I've learned is if policymakers or funders or even activists are not worried about that problem in the moment, shining a spotlight on it doesn't work. There's got to be a wave and a kind of a movement and a crest that's breaking. It's hard. And I'll just be frank, John, I've been blamed for some of these things when it's like the opposite. No, I'm the guy that raised the alarm. It's like blaming somebody about climate change who was warning about it and saying, no, you're the guy. No, I'm the one that's raised the alarm on it. But people contact me now, and that's not my expertise anymore. We moved away from in my lab from persuasive technology and looking at technology in general around 2010. After this LinkedIn project and really letting him marinate and doing some development, it was like, man, there's a big opportunity here to really just understand human behavior and how behavior works. So we, in fact, changed the name of my Stanford lab from the Persuasive Technology Lab to the Behavior Design Lab. And it's not the same thing, despite what some people say it. It's a whole different approach. I feel like we'd done what we needed to there, showing the potential, showing the pitfalls, writing about the ethics, running events on the ethics of it, and then having a wonderful student like Tristan Harris emerge, who is doing a much better job than I ever could do. He's so talented and articulate. So in the lab, in my teaching, we moved on to just looking at human behavior and especially habits and how those work without looking at behavior change through the lens of technology.
I'm going to just conclude this topic by saying that I think history repeats itself. And I think we should really look at people like Oppenheimer and Einstein and Tesla and others and their warnings that went ignored and the repercussions when
Hmm.
they weren't adhered to on this topic. And yes, you're right. He is absolutely doing some phenomenal work around this topic.
Yeah.